AthleanX is the biggest fitness channel on YouTube, and this is one of his most popular videos, sitting at around 4.5 million views. How to gain 20 pounds of muscle the right way. Let's find out. Are 4.5 million people getting jacked, or are they hopelessly doomed, going to be small forever, and probably going to frequent r/incels if it ever comes back? Hi, I'm Cavaliere Fitness. I make optimal training entertaining and easy to understand for everybody, off of a lot of personal experience and what the science says, so I can give you real practical applications. For a little bit of context, I actually followed Jeff Cavaliere and or AthleanX's advice for my first 1 or 2 years lifting, and I personally actually remember watching this video back then. And this video does give you some solid advice, but it also misses the mark on a couple of things that hearing whenever I was 17, just getting into lifting, really held me back in the long run. So I basically wanted to go back through this video, kind of explain all the good, but also kind of shed some light on some of the bad and some of the things that personally held me back in the past, so that maybe you can actually pack on the 20 pounds of muscle that Jeff is talking about. We're actually going to start off on what Jeff advises as far as supplements go. 20 pounds of muscle is a lot, so obviously Trend's going to be on the list. If it's not, I will literally jump off of my local Walmart. That's a joke, by the way. I'm natural.
Where's supplementation fit in here? Did Jesse use supplements? Well, I actually have a very funny story about the supplements in a second here, but I will tell you guys, I've always told you the truth when it comes to supplementation. The two things that supplements provide, first and foremost, a convenience that allows you to get high quality nutrition, if you're taking the right supplements, high quality nutrition at the right time, consistently. Consistently. It's the ease and convenience of supplementation that allows you to do this with a consistency, and that's what one of the big keys is. The second thing is, we can argue this till the cows come home. If you are looking for the performance benefits of beta-alanine or the performance benefits of, say, creatine, you are not going to get that through food alone. And if you did get it through food in a single day, you're not going to be able to do that again day after day after day consistently. Knowing how much red meat it would take to eat just to get the amount of creatine that would be beneficial, because we're talking about the beneficial effects of these supplements. Not just saying that I'm getting creatine in my diet, but actually seeing the benefits of the clinically researched dosages of those, because that's what really matters the most, is what benefit you're seeing. Now for Jesse, I knew he could benefit from these things. I knew beta-alanine was going to help him with his training, so we actually provided it in a supplemental form. So, is supplementation for you? If your nutrition is not in the right place, no. If you're not that serious about your training, then no. If you're not necessarily ready for supplementation yet, that's fine. But if you're looking for those benefits, then that's what you need to do, and it could be the key to your consistency if you actually do go down that road.
So as you guys know, I'm not really a product pusher, so I bet you guys think I'm going to disagree, don't you? I bet you guys used your creative thinking skills, and you're thinking I'm probably going to disagree and dismantle every last thing that Jeff said, right? Well, keep thinking. It's good for you. But I actually completely agree. Now, this is going to be a pretty hot take to the holistic hellscape that the fitness industry has become on YouTube, but I think supplements have a place. And I think that the advice that you hear from a lot of people,
wait to get the supplements until you're more into lifting, wait until you're a little bit more advanced before you start messing with supplements.
This way of thinking is really, really, really flawed, because here's the thing, most people don't make it that f***ing long. And you know why they don't make it that long? Because they had things that kept them from the gym, such as maybe they don't have energy, maybe they don't have motivation, maybe they didn't get enough sleep, maybe their protein intake is shit, maybe they had joint pain. All of this stuff is so easily fixable with just a supplement. If you can't make it to the gym because you have no energy, because you just got out of your 16-hour shift in the mines of fucking cutting your penis off and stitching it back on, and all you would need to do is pop a little pre-worky to give yourself that little oomph to go to the gym, I think maybe you should do it. And this applies all the way up the ladder, from beginner to advanced. Consistency is key for absolutely fucking everyone. So if supplements give you the ability to be consistent, then like, bro, it's honestly just natural selection if you don't. Next, we're going to go over Jeff's views on nutrition. I definitely have a lot more to say about his nutrition take, but we'll get into that in a second. I'm going to go ahead and play the clip for you real quick.
Okay, moving on now to the nutrition, always as key and important as the training, because they sort of go hand in hand, and there's no separating the two. It comes down to something very, very, very simple. I told Jesse this from the very beginning. A lot of people will say, eat big, get big. And I've disagreed with that for a very long time now. And the other people will say bulk and then cut. And as Jesse in his 8-pack can actually show you, he's never had to do that. He's been able to add the muscle here without having to bulk up and then cut all that fat and get rid of it. No, we don't do that. What I'm saying is three things. First, you have quality, then you have quantity, then you have consistency. And it should go in that order. And the one thing Jesse struggled with the most was his quality. Jesse was eating a ton of food. The fact was his quality was poor.
Yeah, shit food. You saw the gummy bears.
The gummy bears, right? His gummy bears, I'm telling you, I watched everything that he ate. Nothing was really that good. What we wanted to do, though, was change that and get him to start finding quality foods that he actually enjoyed, which was a key shift for you.
100%. That's the reason why, I eat the way that I do. I like the food that I eat.
Which leads to eventually down the road here, consistency. But first, the quantity. Because once we knew that he had swapped himself to foods that were better foods, a lot of times what will happen is when you're going from all those gummy bears and sweets and everything else, is your caloric density will drop, right? You won't be getting as many calories as you did before. We need to then teach Jesse to eat higher quantities of food because of that caloric drop. So we were able to do that, but it took a little bit of adjustment.
Yeah, that felt sick very often.
Right, it's not that easy to sort of start eating a lot more in terms of food volume when you're doing that. But again, we were able to do that, and understand, guys, it takes a little bit of time to adjust to that, even if you have to increase your meal frequency in order to do that. And a lot of times people argue about meal frequency these days, you shouldn't be eating that often. That's one of the big advantages of meal frequency, is it allows you to sort of do that and not have to eat as much at every single time you sit down and have a meal. So we did that. Then finally, consistency. And consistency is key, because without consistency, none of this matters. If you can't keep doing what you're doing, then it's not going to work. And that was where that whole concept you just said.
Yeah, that I like the food that I eat.
So liking what you ate was allowing him to stay with consistency.
Yo, Jeff just dropped a fucking bar, my guy. Quality, quantity, consistency. That shit goes hard. I can't even lie. And for the most part, pretty good advice, honestly. Find food that'll help you hit your goals that you like, and eat it consistently. That's like the recipe for healthy eating. And also the little microsecond he spent on meal timing is pretty fire too. So all this advice is really good. My only problem with the advice is that it lacks structure, in my opinion. If you tell someone this advice, exactly how Jeff did in the video, and give them no other context, they are going to be confused as shit. How do I know? Because it was me. I was confused. And there's a really simple solution to this problem too. Just give it more structure. I'm not saying everybody has to track every single micronutrient, macronutrient, and thickness of their nut every single day, but I'm at least saying to track your calories and protein. And if you just give somebody the general advice of what calories they should roughly eat and what protein they should roughly get in, and then they follow that same advice, that quality, quantity, consistency, find the quality food that they like, that they can eat consistently, and do that most of the time, and you fill that out with a specific calorie structure and protein structure in mind, yeah, then there you go. You have 98% of fitness is done. This advice gets even more confusing after he brought up not bulking and not cutting, because now nobody knows what to fucking do. You just say, hey, find quality food and eat it consistently, but you don't tell them that they should be in a calorie surplus, calorie deficit. So guess what? They're probably going to choose to be in a surplus. Also, I do kind of disagree with Jeff's complete switch. He kind of makes it seem like you're mainly supposed to flip completely to this other way of eating. It would make sense for Jeff to promote that. That's what he does. He is known for only having one cheat meal a year. That's just not applicable for most people. You can lie to yourself and say it is. Guess what? You're going to binge. Contest prep bodybuilders, the literal leanest people on the planet, have cheat meals. I think if you adopt a more kind of pseudo if it fits your macros approach, but you still eat mostly healthy food, I think that has the best recipe for longevity and is probably the best outline that most people can actually follow. Because ultimately, if you're trying to gain 20 pounds of muscle and by the end of the day you just weren't hungry, you ate 800 calories, and all it would take, maybe you just have a little papadilla from Papa John's. Maybe that's the only thing it takes to hit what the calories you need for the day. Then once again, I think it's just natural selection if you don't do that. Have a good calorie structure, find foods that you like that fit into that calorie structure and help you hit that calories consistently. And have a little bit of an if it fits your macros approach there to sprinkle in whenever you really want something. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt your regularly scheduled program. I just want you to please check and see that you are subscribed to the channel. I'm really trying to hit 500 subs. I feel like I'm coming up on it pretty soon. And if you've liked the video so far, it would really help me in the algorithm if you did like the video. That does help it reach more people, and I would personally grab your toes and I could also really use the algorithm help, considering my my last video I did got age restricted. Definitely didn't make me want to, chop off my own balls and throw them at the wall like water balloons. Definitely didn't make me want to put on a blindfold and run through my nearest freeway. Here are the comments of the week. Make sure you leave a comment so that you can appear in next week's video. Also, I want to give a really special shout out to the YouTube channel at Steve Shaw Strength. I messaged back and forth with him on Instagram a little bit, and he gave me some really helpful advice on YouTube. Back to the video. So I definitely have the most to say on the workout portion of the video, and there is a lot of workout advice at the same time. So instead of just playing one clip, I'm going to be playing a couple of clips, and I'm going to be kind of interjecting whenever I feel appropriate. I do believe that there's a lot of information here that has a good outline, but it could be holding a lot of people back at the same time.
What you need to focus on first and foremost is spend the first portion of your training covering the basics, and in terms of that, I'm talking about mind-muscle connection, body command and control, and being able to execute the movements the way they're supposed to before you start adding the weight to the bar to start working on the strength.
So in this video so far, I do feel like Jeff has been mainly catering to beginners. He does mention later on in the video that it's applicable beginner to advanced. However, advice such as like the nutrition one, I feel like that's mainly targeted towards beginners. My main point with bringing that up is that, yeah, I agree that mind muscle connection and total body control are good things for sure. However, I don't really think they need too much of an emphasis for beginners. Honestly, I think if a beginner just starts off with an empty bar and they just work on their technique week to week, adding weight every single week, I think you'll get plenty of mind muscle connection and technique work on the way up. By the time you hit weights that are actually challenging the muscle fully and not just challenging like your stability, you know, having you fucking shaking like you got tremors or something, you'll be plenty good at the movement and you should be able to feel your muscle plenty.
Because there's a big concept here, guys. At some point, there's a very fine line when you're doing your training where your true strength will be overcome by your compensatory strength, your compensations. Meaning that, let's say maybe up to 135 pounds on a squat, Jesse's able to use his true strength to execute that movement. But once he gets to 140 pounds, there's a compensation that takes place. In order for him to get that lift down to the bottom and come back out of it, maybe he has to lean forward just a little bit. Maybe the low back has to start activating a little bit more to stabilize that forward lean. Maybe the hips themselves kind of internally rotate because his foot caves in a little bit because his knee caves in under the weight. The quads weren't necessarily able to handle that. All these things start to mushroom out of control, and the compensation is he's able to get the weight back up. And to anybody looking at him, Jesse just squatted 140. So in his own mind, he did the same thing. Then he squats 150. Then he squats 160. All of this based on compensations that his body is getting good at hiding. That is the recipe for long-term disaster. And if you are anything like me, I did the same thing, and my knees now today pay for my mistakes from before. Had I set the stage with lighter weights and left my ego at the door and decided to follow a strength program based on my ability to control the movements that I have first, that would have been better off.
Personally, I remember this advice, and this is what led me to have a bad case of paralysis by analysis. I took that advice to heart, and like, if you listen to it, there are some solid points in there. Maybe every time you squat, you shouldn't let your femur go ice skating on your meniscus, but at the same time, emphasizing stuff like, you know, your low back having to stabilize more is just weird, because like anytime you progress in weight, your low back is going to have to stabilize more because it literally has to stabilize more weight. That's just kind of a part of getting stronger. Let's combine these 2 points a little bit and apply it to myself. We'll use the bench press for example, because that was the lift I cared about the most, as does everybody else on the planet. I was bench pressing and I was stuck at 185 pounds, and the reason I was stuck at 185 pounds is because at this point I was following Jeff's advice, and I was trying to only lift by like mind muscle connectioning up the weight, like just purely like trying to flex my chest to get it up there. Under good form, I would start to have a little bit of breakdown because it just happens. Well, anytime I would run into any kind of weight that was a bit harder than usual and I had to really grind the weight up, I had to really push it up and not just like mind muscle connection, fucking flex my titty at it, I thought I was doing the rep wrong. You see, because the rep wasn't the same as the previous ones, and I was like, oh no, my body's having to stabilize more than usual. I'm having to use this and this and this, and all these tweaks are happening. I never really progressed. I was stuck at 185 pounds on my bench press for like 2 years, and I hadn't even tapped out my newbie gains yet, I don't think, because as soon as I stopped giving a shit about that, I dialed it back to running a beginner program, and I was like, I'm sick of not benching 225, and was like, listen, regardless of if I get all 5 reps, I'm adding 5 pounds next week. Guess what? I got up to 225. Was the first time I did 225 pretty? No, but at the same time, I fucking got 225, and the very next time I did it, it was clean as fuck. Now, if you're intermediate, I absolutely think this advice is good. You should start working on kind of focusing in on the muscles that are a lot more like lagging. Like say, for example, you do have a weak chest. Maybe you should start focusing on your mind muscle connection with your chest and making sure that's the thing you're fucking training. However, to a beginner, advising this kind of thing just has them barking up the wrong tree, bro. You're focused on your form in the beginning while you're working up to it. But once you start hitting that wall, that weight that's heavy, you got to learn how to fucking push hard. Then once you're at an intermediate level, then clean it up. Be like, now I want to start working on my mind muscle connection. And the reason that you need to go back to it is because now that you pushed hard, you actually know what failure feels like, and you can actually get the most out of the mind muscle connection work. Now, maybe the mind muscle connection shit will work for you, but personally, that's what happened with me. And that's how I think most people are going to see benefit. Don't be scared of fucking struggling, my guy. Don't be scared of fucking getting that weight up there, you know? Like I just almost fucking stopped my heart by punching myself. Would that make me a bitch or really strong? Definitely pay attention to your form, of course. I'm not saying don't pay attention to your form. If I catch you half repping, I will literally mushroom stamp your forehead. Let's do a little summary here. Supplementation. Use supplements for consistency. Quality, quantity, consistency is bars, but just have more focus. Make sure you count your calories. Make sure you count your protein. Lifting, don't be half repping or decapitating yourself with a barbell. Yeah, pay attention to form, pay attention to all that shit, but also don't be a fucking throw some weight on the bar. Learn what failure actually means, then work on that mind muscle connection stuff whenever it's applicable to you. And if you do want to know what exercises would make you the most jacked if you're actually trying to gain 20 pounds, I did this 2-part video on the best exercises for every muscle group, and I suggest you check it out. But thank you for watching. Subscribe. Adios.